Welcome back. Now let's revise RCM and e-commerce operator. See, our target will be to discuss three subsections. 9 subsection 3 of CGST Act. Brother of that is 5 subsection 3. Then we have 9 subsection 4. Brother of that 5 subsection 4 of IGST. And lastly 9 subsection 5. In IGST it is 5 subsection 5. Now 9.3 deals with reverse charge mechanism for notified goods or services. Both goods as well as services are there in our syllabus. So first let's deal with the goods which are covered under RCM. Now first the law talks about a agriculturist. Agriculturist who is supplying cashew nuts, BD leaves, that is tendu leaves, then you have tobacco, and last one raw cotton. If an agriculturist is the supplier of these and he is supplying to a registered person, then the registered person has to pay tax under RCM. This is the first one. The second one is essential oils. Now there are a lot of names given, but be careful. Essential oils, and it should not contain citrus fruit, because the law says following essential oil. Following essential oil meaning now the names will come. First one peppermint, and then there is other mints, and other mints has various kinds of mints oil. So these being provided to a registered person, again it is covered by RCM. Careful, here the word is agriculturist, here it's a plain language. The supplier can be anyone, it doesn't matter. Now this indicates supplier, this indicates recipient. Then the third one is manufacturer of silk yarn. This is also normally done by very small traders or manufacturers. Again, when they are supplying silk yarn to big mills who are registered person, then those big mill owners, registered persons, needs to pay the tax under RCM. Then we have government selling lottery. Now government does not sell lottery directly to the general public, they supply it to distributors or selling agents. Now when they are supplying to distributors or selling agent, that distributor or selling agent is required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Government will not pay. Then the fifth one is government, and here it says excluding Ministry of Railways, selling used, old assets or goods or vehicles or seized goods or confiscated goods. See, government confiscates the lot of goods. All those confiscated goods are then sold. Now when they sell it to a registered person, then the registered person is responsible to pay the tax under RCM. And then there is priority sector lending certificates. When sold to a registered person has to pay tax under RCM. Now here, if you notice, it doesn't matter who is the supplier, whether he is registered or unregistered. PSLC are regarded as goods because they are tradable. Basically, there is priority sector lending which is required to be done as per RBI mandate. Now, if some bank is not able to meet that and some other bank has done a much better priority sector lending, then the bank which has done better will get these certificates from RBI saying that we have met this target, and then they can sell it to various other banks who have not met the criteria. Then unregistered person supplying metal scrap to registered person, then the registered person has to pay tax under RCM. So these are the 7 goods which are there under RCM, which you need to know very well. High chances of institute dealing with all this for your examination. Yes. Okay. Then you have services under RCM. Now, services under RCM, there are various services where recipient has to pay the tax under RCM. First, understand the basic purpose as to why reverse charge mechanism was brought under the law. See, there are 2 major reasons why RCM was brought, which I will show you in goods industry as well. First one, whenever government is unable to collect tax from suppliers like agriculturist, it becomes difficult to collect tax from the agriculturist or manufacturer of silk yarn who are small people. Government has difficulty in collecting taxes with its own departments, and that's why whenever government is not able to collect tax from the supplier, they shift the liability to the recipient. And second reason is shifting the liability to pay tax from weaker person to stronger person, from weaker person to stronger person. So say suppose we talk about agriculturist vis-a-vis a registered person. Who is a stronger person to comply with the law? Sir, obviously registered person. Hence government shifts the liability under RCM. Now let's see the services which are there under RCM. Director, providing service to a body corporate. Who is a body corporate? Body corporate is company and LLP. So director, providing services in the capacity of a director, not in any other capacity. It should be in the capacity of a director. Only then it will be covered under RCM. Otherwise, it will be a simple case of forward charge. For example, director has a proprietorship concern. In that proprietorship concern, he makes some service consultancy. Now, if that consultancy is being provided to the company, then that is not a case covered by RCM. The director will have to pay tax under forward charge, because CBIC has clarified that director to body corporate is triggered only when the body corporate is required to pay tax in the capacity of the director providing service. If it is in his personal capacity, then it will not be covered under this entry. It might get covered under some other entry, but it will not get covered under this entry unless and until it is in the capacity of the director. What if the director is an employee? Now, if the director is an employee, there is no question of RCM, because if he is an employee, then it is covered by negative list. And as it is covered by negative list, there is no question of any implication on this particular service. Okay, then second one is author, providing services to the publisher. Now, author providing services to the publisher, publisher has to pay tax under RCM. But here note that author has an option to pay tax under forward charge. There is an option where author can choose that he wants to take registration, inform the department, and then he has to remain under forward charge for 1 year. Third one is music composer or photographer in respect of temporary transfer of a right to use in an intellectual property right to music company or producer. Then the music company or producer will pay the tax under RCM. Then we have residential dwelling rented to a registered person. If you see, the language is very plain. It says residential dwelling rented to a registered person. It does not clearly say whether it's commercial property, residential property. It doesn't matter. Any residential dwelling given to a registered person has to pay the tax. What's a residential dwelling? A residential property. Fifth, any immobile property other than residential dwelling provided by unregistered person to a registered person. Careful, here there is a combination. The supplier should be a unregistered person and the recipient should be a registered person. Be very careful on this particular point because here it is a plain language. Doesn't matter who is the supplier. Even if supplier is registered, recipient will pay the tax under RCM. But if it's a commercial property and the supplier is unregistered, then in that case recipient has to pay tax under RCM. Okay, then insurance agent providing service to a insurance company. Then the insurance company will pay the tax under RCM. Then the law talks about security service. Security service provided by any person other than body corporate. So the supplier should be other than body corporate, and then it says registered person other than composition dealer. So composition dealer is not covered by this, otherwise composition dealer is covered. Then eighth one, overseeing committee of RBI. Providing service to RBI. RBI will be responsible to pay the tax. Ninth one, any service provided by government or local authority to business entity. Business entity. But there are some exceptions to this. Exceptions is first three limbs of government exemption. Now you would have learned government exemption. We will again revise it in exemption chapter, but government exemptions, first three limbs was Department of Post. In this point, Indian Railways was also there. Then we had transportation of goods or passengers, and then service in relation to aircraft or vessel, whether inside or outside the port. These three are excluded. Then the second exclusion is renting of immovable property. Because if the government is giving a property on rent, still it is not covered by this RCM. But don't worry, government wanted to bring it under RCM and hence they added renting in the next point. But the language is a bit different. There it does not depend on business entity, it depends on registered or unregistered person. So the next entry deals with renting of immovable property provided by government or local authority to registered person. This is the difference in the language. Here it is dependent on registered person, while in ninth point it talks about business entity, which is wider. Business entity is wider because business entities may be registered or unregistered, while registered person is only a person who has taken GST registration. Then the law talks about renting of motor vehicle for passengers provided by any person other than body corporate, and then the law also says that he should not be paying tax at 12%. That means he has an option to pay tax under forward charge at 12% plus fuel charges included. So the renting should be such that fuel charges are included in the bill. Then in that case, if the recipient is a body corporate, then RCM will apply. This specific combination has to be met. If this specific combination is not met, it would not be a case of RCM. Anything which is not RCM would be a case of forward charge. Be very strong with this particular point. Then the law also deals with GTA. GTA who has not opted for forward charge. Then if he is providing service to registered person or specified person. Who is specified person, sir? Factory, society, cooperative society, partnership firm, body corporate, casual taxable person. If these specified persons are there, then the specified persons have to pay tax under RCM. But be very careful. GTA has an option to pay tax under forward charge. So totally 3 sectors have an option. First, author. Second, renting of motor vehicle. And third one, GTA. Author cannot shift for 1 year after taking forward charge. Renting of motor vehicle, this does not have any limit saying that he cannot shift again. There is nothing written in the law. And GTA has to take it financial year wise. So one financial year he can be under forward charge, another financial year he can be under RCM. So that decision needs to be taken on a financial year basis. Then recovery agent. Recovery agent providing service to banks and financial institution. It's easy to recover tax from banks and financial institution. Then arbitral tribunal, Arbitration and Reconciliation Act. We are not talking about tribunal which is covered by negative list. This is Arbitration and Reconciliation Act. Here the wordings used is business entity. Then you have advocate or senior advocate providing legal service. Anything other than legal service would be covered under forward charge. Be very careful that the specific wordings have to be met. Only when the specific wordings are met, then only GST will apply. Plus, if out of this any of this is exempt, then there is no question of RCM, because RCM is only a methodology of recipient being made liable to pay the tax. So if there is no tax at all, then there is no question of RCM. Then sponsorship service. And here the law is supplier can be any person, but the recipient has to be partnership firm or body corporate only. Only then sponsorship service will be covered under RCM. And then person located in non-taxable territory, meaning outside India, providing service to a person located in taxable territory. So these are the persons who are covered under RCM. Then we have individual direct selling agent, providing service to banks. Basically, these individual direct selling agents are marketing agents who call on behalf of the banks and try to sell banking products like loans or any kind of credit card, debit card. And here all this will also include NBFCs, because the term financial institution also includes NBFCs. And careful, it's an individual. Institute has a number of times given body corporate giving direct selling agent. That is a case of forward charge, because only when individual is the supplier, only then it is covered here. Then you have lender of securities, to borrower of securities. Then business facilitator. Business facilitators are basically marketing agents who help open bank accounts. They go to each household and convince people to open bank accounts, and they charge a commission from banks. Here it's only to banks. And then you have agent of business correspondent. Now these business correspondents are basically kirana stores or retail stores being licensed, where a person can go to that kirana store, make a deposit with an OTP or make a withdrawal with OTP in his bank account instead of going to the bank branch, because bank branch might be far away. Agent of business correspondent to a business correspondent. Now, how will we recall all this, sir? Now, I'll help you out with a small story. My friend Mr. A was a director in a music company, and he used to write some books also. The company took a residential property on rent for him, and he used to work from a commercial property as well. One day he received a call from terrorist The company arranged for insurance agent so that if he dies, let the family earn something, and also took security services so that all round security can be provided to Mr. A. They also took help from government and RBI because the terrorist wanted foreign currency. Thereafter, he used to travel in a rented cab because he was so scared. He had his own car, but he used to travel in a rented cab, and sometimes he used to hide in a truck and go home. That too GTA truck. One day he was killed by a recovery agent. Company filed a case in the arbitral tribunal with the help of an advocate. Nothing happened. Finally, they sponsored an event outside India in the memory of Mr. A. In his next life, he became an individual direct selling agent, also started lending securities. Finally, he became a business facilitator and closed his business as a business correspondent. Let's see. Mr. A was a director in a music company and he used to also write some books. The company took a residential house for rent and a commercial property as well. He received a call from terrorist. Company arranged for insurance agent and security services. They also took help from RBI and government. He used to travel in a rented motor vehicle and sometimes hide in a truck. He was killed by a recovery agent. The company filed a case in the arbitral tribunal with the help of an advocate. Finally, they sponsored an event outside India in the memory of Mr. A. Then, in his next life, he became an individual direct selling agent, started lending securities, became a business facilitator, and ended the business with a business correspondent. This is how you can remember it, but please be very careful. You need to know the specific combination because if you don't apply the specific combination, then there is no use. Plus, one important circular in this is distinguishing between renting of motor vehicle and transportation of passenger. Please understand renting versus transportation. Renting is for a specific period of time, while transportation is a specific journey. Now say suppose I tell you that I need to go from point A to point B, then it is transportation, and transportation is not covered by RCM. Specific journey from point A to point B, from point B to point C, that is not covered by RCM. What is covered by RCM is renting. Renting is where I have the control of the vehicle. It is left to my discretion. I will take it wherever I want for the next 4 hours, for the next 8 hours, for the next 1 day, for the next 1 month. So renting is for a specific period of time. That period of time can vary, but transportation is a specific journey. What is covered by RCM is only renting and not transportation of passenger. So there was a circular where some companies are taking bus and there is a specific contract saying that the bus has to come at this time, pick up all the employees and drop them to their home. Specific journey is available and contract clearly provides for the journey. Then in that case, whether it will be a case of RCM or forward charge, it will be a case of forward charge, and we'll have to also check for any exemption. But if it was renting, saying I have the control over the vehicle, I can, full day the vehicle is with me, I can send it whenever I want, wherever I want. Then it would have been a case of reverse charge mechanism. So you should know the difference very well. Okay. Now coming to two small discussions. 94/54. Now here a combination has to be met. Supplier should be a unregistered person while recipient should be a registered person. Only one sector is notified as of date, and that is real estate sector. Now what does the law say in this? The law says that at least 80% of the inputs and input services to be purchased from registered persons, otherwise builder or developer, to pay tax on the shortfall under RCM. That means out of the total purchases, at least 80% should be purchased from registered person. If this 80% is not met, that means if this 80% is not met, then in that case, say suppose 75% is purchased from registered person, then on the 5% the recipient has to pay tax under RCM. That means you have a leeway of 20%. 20% of your input and input services you can purchase from unregistered person. But cement has highest rate, 28%. So can you purchase cement from unregistered person? That's the next point. Cement to be purchased only from registered persons. Otherwise, the builder will have to pay tax under RCM. And this otherwise point remains same. Okay, then capital goods. Capital goods to be purchased only from registered person. So cement, just be a bit careful. When you talk about cement, first pay tax on cement if you have purchased from unregistered person, then total it. Once 80% is met, then you don't have to pay any tax for other inputs. Okay. Then we have a discussion on 95/55, where government has the power to notify services on which ECO will pay tax as if he is the supplier. Totally there are 4 things which are notified. First one is transportation of passengers. The only exclusion is omnibus by a company. Omnibus by a company. And here body corporate is not used. So LLP, you will not get this. Only omnibus by a company. So omnibus by a company, this will be covered under 9(1). Also be careful that here in the first entry, it does not matter who the supplier is. Supplier can be registered person or unregistered person. Irrespective of that, ECO will be responsible to pay the tax. Omnibus is designed to carry more than 6 passengers. and basically the upper limit is not there, so buses will also be covered under this. Now in the same point, maxi cab is given, more than 6 passengers up to 12 passengers. So I feel that if it is maxi cab given in the question, then you only go by 9(5). If omnibus is given specifically, then you go by 9(1), that too omnibus by a company. Sir, what about aircraft and vessel and railways? No, here there is no coverage of aircraft, vessel, railways, because as per Motor Vehicle Act, these are not regarded as motor vehicles, because it only talks about transportation of passengers in a radio taxi, comma motor cab, and motor cab comes from Motor Vehicle Act, maxi cab, motorcycle, or any other motor vehicle. Okay, then the second point is relating to restaurant. Restaurant service providing is also covered by 9(5). Here there is one exclusion, except when it is in a specified premise. Is the term specified premise defined? Obviously yes. Specified premise means a premise which is providing accommodation facility, and any unit of accommodation exceeds 7,500 per day. If even a single room exceeds 7,500 per day, then in that case the restaurant within that will be covered by 9(1) forward charge, and it will not be covered under 9(5). And don't ever call 9(5) as RCM, because it is not RCM. ECO is responsible to pay the tax as a supplier. RCM, recipients are liable to pay the tax. Then we have accommodation. Now accommodation, the entry very clearly says that if the supplier is liable to register, the moment the person who is providing the service, he is liable to register, then it is a case of 9(1), and liable to register under 22(1), and 22 clearly provides for limit 10 lakh, 20 lakh. Fourth one is housekeeping services. Again the law is similar, except when supplier is liable to register. So in housekeeping and accommodation, generally if the supplier is liable to register, he will be registered, and as he is registered, it will not be a case of 9(5), it will be a case of 9(1). So this is how the entries look. Clear? Omnibus is there in this entry, then in the next entry omnibus is included, then omnibus by a company is excluded. So instead of writing that, we have written it in one entry. Now let's quickly go through the RCM points and ECO points. See, we started our discussion from here, that we have 9(3) and 5(3) RCM, goods, services. See, supplier, recipient. First we dealt with goods which are covered under RCM. First one was agriculturist, 4 products: cashew nut, BD leaves or tendu leaves, tobacco, raw cotton. Then we have essential oils, again being provided to a registered person. If it contains citrus fruit, then in that case it will not be covered. Then silk yarn. If you are a manufacturer of silk yarn and providing it to registered person, then the registered person will take care. Government selling lottery to lottery distributor or selling agent. Government selling old or used vehicles, second hand vehicles, excluding railways, RCM if they are selling to registered person. Priority sector lending certificate, and last one was metal scrap. Then we dealt with services which are covered under RCM. And then we also understood the two reasons why RCM was brought. One, whenever supplier we are not able to collect tax from him, then government shifts the liability to recipient. And second is shifting the liability from a weaker person to a stronger person. Services RCM, director providing services to a body corporate will pay the tax. Author to publisher, there is an option. Music composer or photographer to music company or producer. Residential dwelling to a registered person, other than residential dwelling to a registered person. But remember that other than residential dwelling, the supplier should be a unregistered person. Then only it will be covered under RCM. If the supplier is a registered person, then it would be a case of forward charge. Don't mix up residential dwelling and commercial dwelling. Insurance agent to insurance company. Security service provided by any person other than body corporate to registered person other than composition dealer. Overseeing committee of RBI to RBI. Government or local authority to business entity. And government has also clarified that wherever government or local authority is mentioned, it will also include court, tribunal, state legislature and parliament. Renting of immobile property by government to registered person. Motor vehicle renting, if he is not paying tax at 12%, then recipient body corporate will pay the tax. GTA, if he has not opted for forward charge. Recovery agent to banks and financial institution. Arbitral tribunal and advocate, senior advocate to business entity. Sponsorship service provided by any person to partnership firm or body corporate. Person located in entity to taxable territory. Direct selling agent, individual, being an individual to banks and financial institution. Lender of securities to borrower. Business facilitator to bank. Agent of business correspondent to business correspondent. Then we moved on to 9.4. 9.4, unregistered to registered. This combination has to be met. At least 80% of the input and input services should be purchased from registered person. Otherwise, builder has to pay tax under RCM. Cement and capital goods only to be purchased from registered person. Otherwise, builder to pay tax under RCM. Then coming to 9.5. 9.5, we saw 4 sectors. 1. Transportation of passengers. Only exclusion is omnibus by a company. Then restaurant services. If it is in a specified premise, then in that case it is excluded. Housekeeping and accommodation. If the supplier is liable to register, then the supplier will pay tax under supplier will pay tax under forward charge. Otherwise, it will be a case of 9.5. See you all in the next video.